All right, this is a short and sweet little aerial flow, about 30 minutes. And we'll start seated behind your hammock with your hands in a wrist wrap. And just take a few moments to sit, catch your breath. And then when you feel like you're ready, you got a good grip on the fabric, you can start to lean forward, head and hips in a diagonal line, elbows and shoulders in the same line. And then roll back up to seated as you inhale. And do that again. Inhale and then exhale, go forward. Now you're coming up to hands on wrists, lock, and knees and hips lined up. So it's kind of like tabletop with your hands in a wrist lock. Cat, cow. Dip your belly down as you inhale and open up and exhale, round. After a couple of those, come up to kneeling and then back into it. Tabletop, elbows bent. Exhale, pull your spine up, inhale up to kneeling. So we're just taking some mini kneeling half sun salutations. Open your chest, and then again, bend your elbows, head and hips in the same line, back into table. Inhale, open your heart, and exhale, sit back towards your heels. So we're in a child's pose, waving side to side. Elbows stay squeezing towards your head. Hands are firmly gripped. Go to the right. Back through center, go to the left, and back through center, and again to the right, and inhale through center. And then come up again to seated. You can let go of that wrist wrap now and take it up a little higher actually, so there's a bigger section of fabric between your hands, and then you're going to lift your hips up towards the ceiling in a little Kapotasana stretch. Head is back towards the floor. And then on your next inhale, come up to kneeling, tuck your toes under, and squat back onto your feet, Malasana garland pose. And again, you've got your wrist wrapped up. You can wrap them up a couple times here, and your arms are straight. Stretch your arms apart, and then finger stretch forward and go side to side here in garland pose. So you can grip the fabric, but it's an easier grip. Give your hands a break. Heels can be off the floor, knees apart, feet touching if you can. Hips towards the heels, side to side. Inhale back to center and exhale to the right. Inhale, center. Exhale to the left. Stretching side to side. Okay, and then back to center. Okay, and then come up into a toe squat. Keep one hand on the fabric, your other hand comes off, and side bend over with your left arm. So right hand in the fabric in a single wrist lock, left arm overhead to the fabric, and keep those knees together on your toe squat. And then come back up. Now wrap your left hand, unwrap your right hand, and then you're going to take your right arm up overhead, reaching over for the fabric, side bending here in a toe squat. Open the right side, engage your left side, keep those knees together, and then inhale back up into your toe squat. Rewrap your wrists, and then come into a forward fold with your elbows bent. Elbows stay bent to protect the rotator cuff muscles in your shoulders. And then a rounding here, exhale, and then inhale, open. And you can stretch your arms forward here, but bend your knees so that there's not such a big force on the shoulders. And you can go side to side. We're going to take a twist actually. So I'm going to bend my left elbow, pull my left hand down, right hand's up, free of the fabric, and then I've taken the fabric back next to my hip. Left knee is bent, right leg is straight. We'll do that on the second side so you can see. I'm going to wrap my right hand. My left hand's going to come to my left hip. Right knee is bending. I'm going to take the fabric over in front of me, pass it over to the front of your belly, and then your left hand is pulling the fabric, or your right hand is pulling the fabric down. Your left hand is reaching up the hammock. Right knee bent, left leg straight. And then let's come back into that knee bend and arms in the fabric. And now you're just resting your wrists in the fabric and you're going to sway side to side. So your arms can be straight here. You're not necessarily hanging from your hands. The wrists are just resting. And inhale, center, and exhale to the side. Inhale, center, exhale to the other side. And then back through center, roll up to stand. Inhale, reach your arms up. You can be free of the hammock or just let it fall where it falls naturally. And then we're going to transition into the fabric behind your hips, behind your back. And then I'm going to sit down into a chair pose with an upper back support so I can then lean back and straighten my legs into upward facing plank. And so I'm pretty far behind the plumb line here where that fabric free falls. I'm going to bend my knees back into this little, it's like a really deep squat. So it's not so much of a chair pose as it is a squat. And then I'm going to take cat-cow here. Inhale, open your chest, stretch your arms, stretch your legs. Exhale, bend your knees, squat back down, and then take your hands in front of you and round your back. Inhale, open, push into the hammock to stretch out your legs and your arms. Exhale, bend your knees, and then again, push into the fabric with your shoulders and push back with your spine to round. Again, inhale, open, and exhale, bend your knees, and come back to a toe squat. In a toe squat here, we'll take a twist. The hammock is on your back like a backpack around your shoulders, just for balance. Right hand to your left thigh, left hand to your left hip, twisting. This is Paschasana prep. And then inhale back to center. Find your balance on your toes. Use the hammock if you need to. Left hand to your right thigh and your right arm reaches behind you. Again, you've got the hammock in your upper back to help with balance. You can take your left hand inside your left leg if it's easier, if it's too hard to cross all the way on the outside of your right thigh. Keep those feet together, keep those hips squeezing in, and then untwist as you inhale. And forward fold, little backpack harness here. So wrap the shoulders, you can open your arms out into airplane, and then even here, cat-cow, exhale, fingers down, round your spine. Inhale, lift your arms, open your chest. Knees can be softly bent. Exhale, round as you straighten your legs and reach down towards the floor with your fingers. And then inhale, open your chest and look forward and bend your knees a little. Exhale, round. Fingers tap toward each other, and then inhale, bend your knees, and we're going to glide forward into a downward facing plank pose with your legs straight. You're on your tippy toes. Exhale, roll back over your feet, and inhale, straighten your legs and reach your arms above head. Again, bend your knees. Inhale, come through, and exhale, straighten your legs, downward facing plank. Push into the hammock. Bend your knees, inhale back through and open up in an upward facing plank. And then as you exhale, come back into a squat. Inhale, come forward, downward facing plank, pushing into the hammock with your shoulders, opening your chest. Back into seated and open your chest. Inhale. And arms to your side. Actually, take your hands up to your fabric. I forgot what I was going to do. Take your hands up to your fabric and then walk forward out of that. And then you're going to sit down in your hammock for chair pose, Utkatasana. And this is a really good setup for chair because you can use the hammock to sit in and not worry about those ankles and that flexibility. You can build ankle flexibility here. So you can use your hands up or on the hammock, Utkatasana. And then we're going to forward fold. Make sure the fabric is farther down on your hamstring so it's not up under your sit bones. You'll fall out of it. Straightening your legs for that forward fold and then bending your knees for Utkatasana. Inhale. And so here I'm going to wrap my hands up, come up to stand. So I've got a wrist wrap. I'm going to step back with my left foot. Right knee bends, right foot forward. You might have to situate your feet, warrior one. So you've got a wrap on your wrist. The fabric is just falling down around your waist and you're pulling down with your shoulders, pulling down with your hands. I'm going to keep my right hand, grab both sides of the fabric, let the left hand go and slide your left hand down your left leg for reverse warrior. And then come back up, rewrap your left hand, take your arms behind you. And just in the transition, you're going to come up into a standing balance. Your arms can come out, and then you can take your hands wherever it's helpful here. So you can pull your hands down on the hammock. We're going to cross left ankle over right thigh for the number 4 shape. I like my hands to come back around behind me, still gripping the fabric so that I can forward fold here in a humble number 4 shape. Right knee is bent, left ankle is crossed over that right thigh. And chest is open here, so try not to collapse down. And then inhale, come back up, pull the left knee up, resituate your hands higher on the fabric, get that wrist wrap set back up if you lost it. And then I'm going to just kind of casual like take that hammock off and stick my left foot in the fabric. Sometimes it takes some manipulating. So I've got my left foot in the fabric now. I'm going to lunge. My right foot's going to come back outside of the fabric next to the left. Chaturanga, exhale. Lower your right leg down to the floor and your hips. And then inhale, push your hips back up off the floor, up dog with the left leg in the fabric. Tuck your right toes and press up and back, downward facing dog with the left leg in the hammock. Swing your leg side to side, to the left, crossing over the midline to the right. Feel the stretch in the inner left thigh when you open it, and feel the stretch in the outer hips when you crisscross over to the right. And keep that right heel from lifting and rolling, so your right hip is not twisting open in this transition, in this dynamic flow. And again to the left and then to the right. Back through center with your left foot. Hop forward with your right leg and bend both knees, push down to that fabric to inhale, come up to stand, and then straighten out your right leg for balancing King Dancer. You're going to reach up behind your head, above head to the fabric, and then you're going to push your arms up to the ceiling to pull your left foot up. And so you could definitely walk your hands down, but this is fine, just an easy little stretch. And then let your left leg come out and sit back down in the hammock. Chair pose, Utkatasana. We'll do that all on the second side. So starting with chair pose, Utkatasana, and then a forward fold, stretching out your legs. Again, I'm pulling that fabric down a little bit so I don't fall out of it. Forward fold. And then I'm going to rebend my knees here in just a moment. So it's nice to take a few breaths in that forward fold, especially after all that work. Inhale, rebend your knees, reach your arms back up. Now again, I'm going to go for that wrist wrap, or you can simply just hold the fabric too. You don't have to wrist wrap, but I'm going to stand up, wrist wrap my hands, and then I'm going to take my right leg back this time for warrior one. Left foot forward, right heel down. And then again, the fabric is just draping along your low back, and you're using your hands here more than the fabric on your back. So you're pulling down on your hands. Keep the fingers, the pinky fingers moving in. Release your right hand. Keep the left hand on both sides of the fabric. So grip both pieces of the hammock with your left hand and stretch that right hand down your right leg for reverse warrior. And then come back up with your right hand, rewrap your hand, and then arms out to the side just in the transition to come up into right knee, up into chest. So standing balance here, using the hammock for balance. Take your hands forward, exhale. And then on your inhale, open. So just like that cat-cow. And then we're going to take that number 4, right ankle over the left thigh, arms behind. This is what I prefer. You're welcome to keep your arms out to the side or even forward a little bit. So I like gripping the fabric. My thumbs are facing up towards the ceiling, palms facing each other, wrists facing each other, and really sit down into that left knee. Open your chest. And then take your arms again back to the front, resituate yourself here so you can get that right leg back in the hammock. So take the fabric off your body and then sneak your right leg in the hammock and then back into floating plank pose. Left leg is outside, floating next to the right, chaturanga. Left leg comes down to the floor and then inhale, press your hips and thighs away from the floor. Tuck your left toes and now you're in a right leg floating downward facing dog. Again, right leg to the side. And then across the midline over to the left. So right leg is moving side to side. And again, try not to let the left hip move. Right hip's going to move a little bit. So you should feel a stretch in the inner right thigh. And then crisscrossing, you should feel that stretch in the outer hips. Keep pressing into both arms equally. Again, to the right, inhale. And exhale when you come back through center and crisscross. And then one more time, inhale. Never mind, you're going to jump forward. I guess that was 3. Maybe I lost count. So jump forward with your left leg and then come up to standing so you can reach back for the hammock behind you and pull the fabric up to the ceiling. So again, you're welcome to walk your hands down. We're just here for a brief moment though. It's just a nice little heart opener. I love the aerial practice because it's a pretty fast-paced practice because you're just moving with gravity. You're moving with your body. You can't control it. You're going to take the hammock into the front hip creases now. And situate yourself back into a plank position. Legs are floating, fingertips are on the floor. Open the legs and squeeze them together. Open and squeeze and open and squeeze. So the fabric should be below your hip bones and the tops of your hip creases. If it's too high, it's going to feel awful and your legs won't be elevated. They're going to keep dropping down. Walk back a little farther behind the plumb line so you can take downward facing dog. And you can take your hands really nice and active, palms flattening out on the floor, fingers stretching, heels can lift. You feel a little pull from the hammock, lifting your hips up and lengthening your low back. And then lift your knees and take your heels to your butt so you can float forward again into that plank pose. But come up a little farther than plank because your feet are going to open up into wide leg forward fold. And it's kind of like a wide leg downward facing dog actually. So I'm way out beyond my hips with my torso. So it's very much like a wide leg relaxing downward facing dog slash forward fold, wide leg forward fold. You can rest your elbows on the floor. You can stretch your arms towards straight. I'm going to roll back to my heels and keep pressing into my hands. That's an extra little add-on. So a couple little options with that forward fold. And then I'm going to come forward back into plank pose. And then take my feet to the floor and walk back to my hands back to my feet. Forward fold Uttanasana. Again, the hammock is just there. Not really doing anything here with the hammock. Inhale, reach up, Urdhva Hastasana. And exhale, release. Come out of the fabric. I'm going to grab the fabric with both hands above my head, like if I had a strap in my hand. So I'm going to take the left hand up and the right hand down and push my right hand into the fabric, and then I'm going to stir out and forward. Trikonasana, left hand is up and then overhead, and you can take your hands down. You can keep your left hand way up if you prefer. I like this floating triangle. It really engages the core a little bit more. Good. And then come up and push down into that left or the right hand. And the left hand's up as high as you can get it. Bend your right knee and again stir your right hand forward and out to the side. So you're pressing back through your left foot, side angle this time. And again, you could keep that left hand up or you could take it overhead and catch the fabric and push the fabric away with both arms. Pull yourself back up to standing. Okay, I'm going to wrap my right hand up a couple more times so I can lower down into Skandasana. And I'm just using this hammock for balance to pull down and lift my chest up. And then I'm going to twist. So I'm going to take my right hand back behind and twist open in Skandasana. Left shoulder inside the left knee. Your left heel can be lifted off the floor. And then stir it back forward. Both hands in the fabric, pressing forward with your arms towards the center line of your body. And then come up to a wide leg forward fold with your arms in the fabric and spin and face over your right leg, pyramid pose, Parsvattanasana. Left heel is down, right toes are pointing straight forward. Try to roll yourself up here, push into the fabric. You're going to take your hands through the fabric and create a wrist lock. And then come forward into Warrior 3. So my arms went through the fabric and around back inside, Warrior 3. So however you can make a wrist lock here to help hold your hands up. Left leg back straight, right arm and left arm both forward. So you're using the fabric for balance. You can look up and look over your thumbs. Yeah, so if you fall to the side, just come back, right? I don't know what happened there. I think I just got wobbly. It's kind of challenging. All right, and then bend your right knee and land back on your left foot and unwrap your hands. So we're going to turn to face back of the mat. And we'll start all over. So right hand's going to come up high, left hand down in the bottom of the hammock. So it's pushing down. Left hand is pushing down into the fabric. Right hand is stretching up as high as you can get it. Stir out and over your left leg. Right heel pressing down. And then again, you can slide that right hand down towards your left arm and straighten both arms out overhead and press away from your right heel with both hands. Strong belly, strong back, strong legs. Floating triangle. Inhale, push yourself back up to stand. So we're going to situate the side angle, bend the left knee, right hand up again as high as you can get it. Again, push down into your left hand, stir out and over your left leg. Side angle, Utthita Parshva with your right hand then stretching overhead. Push away, push the fabric away with your right hand, press back with your right foot, and keep your left knee from dipping in to the big toe side of your foot. Come back up to stand, and then again I'm going to squat down onto that right heel, Skandasana. So the left heel's on the floor, left toes up, left leg straight, and I'm using my left hand in the fabric now. My right shoulder is inside of my right knee, and your right heel can be lifted off the floor. And then stretch your left arm back for a twist. Open your left side, press out through your left foot. And you could even start to set up for a bind here. You can wrap your right arm around the right hip. You could always use the right hand on the floor for stability. And then come up through center, wide leg forward fold, take both wrists in the fabric, press down into both feet, and just extend your spine and your arms or stretch that overhead here. Spin on your feet so you can face over your left leg now for pyramid pose, Parshvottanasana, with arms straight, hips level, and both legs strong. Keep pressing into the floor with both feet and keep your chest open. And then roll yourself up to stand, pulling up slowly. And then again, I'm just going to kind of wrap those hands up. So from where they are, just kind of like twirl them around like you're wrapping up and gathering the fabric. And then warrior 3. So lift up the right leg, press into your left foot, stretch forward with your hands. It's a bit of a back bend here. Take your gaze up over your wrists. Head and heel about in the same line. And use that hammock for balance. That's what it's here for. Okay, land back down on your right foot and come back up to standing. And turn and face forward again. Walk up to the front of your mat. Place the fabric down on the tops of your thighs. Inhale, reach up, Urdhva Hastasana. And exhale, forward fold, Uttanasana. And you can use your hands here now to put the fabric back in place. Walk forward with your hands and then let yourself float back into that floating plank again. And then in floating plank, squeeze those legs together. Right here, chaturanga, exhale. So it's actually preparing for chin stand. So it's a little chest tap, chin, maybe chest, probably just the chin. I don't think I've tried getting the chest down there. I think that would go bad. Chest tap, spin the elbows, inhale back up. So you can see you end up in a big diagonal line, like an arrow down to the floor. Feet lift as your head lowers. And take about 2 more of those. Exhale and inhale. Yep. And then when you're finished, bend your knees into your chest so you can walk yourself back again into downward facing dog. And once you walk yourself back, let your feet land on the floor and lift your sit bones. Lengthen your low back and let that fabric pull your hips up. I'm going to take my right leg out and around and wrap it up the fabric. So I'm in 3-leg dog. So nice stretch here without having to hold that right leg up. It's very, very helpful with the fabric. You could even take this more into a standing split if you really wanted to walk your hands back more to your left foot, or you can keep the 3-leg dog shape. And then I'm going to pull my left knee into my chest and push down into the fabric with my right leg. And it's a little handstand practice. I want my right leg, though, my left leg to come up and out of that hammock. So my left leg just came up and out of the hammock and down to the floor. I'm going to move into half moon, Ardha Chandrasana. So the right leg is in the fabric wrapped up. Open your right ribs, stretch your right hand up to the ceiling, put your left fingertips on the floor. Grab the fabric with your right hand if it helps. And just let that fabric hold you here and learn some balance in this posture. So I'm going to swing my right leg around so I'm up into a standing position, and there's a double wrap on the back of my right leg right above the knee, and I'm going to come forward into a high lunge. Right foot is hovering over the floor, left leg is strong. And then lower left knee down and swing the right leg out to the side. I'm going to lean out to the right. Take my right hand down and inside my right leg for bird of paradise, kneeling on the left leg. Hammock is holding your right leg so you can wrap around in this bind and not fall. Open your chest. You can even side bend a little bit towards the fabric. And then bend your right knee when you're ready to come out of this. Unbind your arms. I'm going to take my hands to the floor and then again swing that right leg behind. I'm going to take my foot out of the fabric 1 time, so it's just a cradle now on my right leg. And it's too high, so I'm going to use my hand to push it down to my ankle. I want it on my ankle, not on my kneecap. That doesn't feel good. And then stretch back into a little deer stretch, sitting towards your right heel. Okay, come back up to downward facing dog any way that you want to get there. So you can come back up to stand, or you can sneak your left leg back in. And then back into this floating plank pose. So you can walk back into downward facing dog, Adho Mukha Svanasana. Take as long as you need here. And then we'll come back into the floating plank again. And downward facing dog with 3-leg dog as our plan, as our goal. Left leg out and wrap it around the fabric and stretch your left leg up. And you can walk your hands back a little bit, so there's a little bit more of a standing split happening here. Feel that great stretch along the inner thighs. And then this is preparing you for that half moon you're going to move into next. So now you're going to come up into a handstand, squeeze your knee into your chest, take your right leg out of the fabric through the front and then down behind on the floor. So now your right leg is free on the floor and your left leg is wrapped up in the fabric a couple times. And you can take your right hand up to the hammock and left fingertips on the floor or a block. Pull down on the fabric and let your left hand kind of like you're hanging from it a little bit, but press back through your left leg and push down into your right foot. Don't let your toes turn in, your right toes. Keep opening your ribs. All right, and then I'm going to pull up to stand and swing the left leg around. So again, you've got that double wrap around the top of your left leg. And then come forward into high lunge. Stretch your hands up. Use your hands to hold. So this is building form, grip strength, arm strength. And then lower your right knee down and take your left knee out to the side and kind of lean over to your left. So you need to pad up your knee. If you need to pad up your knee, get a blanket. And then I'm going to come in front of the hammock with my body, inside of my left leg with my left arm, and I'm going to bind around with my left hand. And maybe you can start to straighten out your left leg into this bird of paradise modification with your right knee on the floor. Right hand's around behind, left hand is grabbing for the left finger, for the right fingertips. And then to come out of it, bend your left knee, release the bind, take your hands down to the floor and swing your leg back and let that crossing come down to your ankle now. Take your foot out so there's just a little saddle, a little hammock for your left ankle, and then stretch back to your heel, deer stretch. Right hip to heel. And then we're going to come up into headstand prep. So elbows on the floor, head behind your hands, and stick the other foot up in the fabric when you're ready. Maybe you keep one foot in the fabric. And then you can start to lift one leg up, and maybe the other leg is still on the floor and you're lifting that leg up. So take this as you'd like. So if I have my left leg up in the air, maybe that leg was down on the floor, right? And then switching sides. Take the other side. So whatever foot you want in the hammock or on the floor, and then swing the other leg up towards the ceiling. The hammock is helping you with balance. So if you feel like the hammock is not helping you with balance, you might need to move forward a little bit more of the plumb line so the hammock is on more of a diagonal. Good. And play with that for just a few moments. If you want to take both feet up, you can stretch out into a wide angle, pushing into the fabric with your legs. And then maybe even here, you can wrap your feet up a second time in the hammock or just squeeze the fabric with your feet. Sometimes it's mental. Knowing that you've got the hammock there to help with balance will help this headstand practice. If you need to feel like you need to come out of it, you can take your legs out and down. And careful in the landing so you don't bruise your toes. And then when you are finished, we're going to move into Anahatasana. The hammock stays in your hip creases, arms stretch forward, knees are bent, the heels are up over your butt, knees are kind of pointing down towards the floor. And then a little side to side swaying action if that feels good. Maybe not moving if it doesn't feel good, right? Right. And then take your feet back to the floor and come up into a standing forward fold. Walk your hands back towards your feet. Pause here. Maybe child's pose if you feel like coming up to standing is too soon. So child's pose if you need the extra time to chill. And then come to your back, and we're going to take both feet in the fabric. Take the fabric up to the backs of your knees for bridge pose, Setu Bandha Sarvangasana. You're pushing down into the fabric with your knees, with your hamstrings, and then your arms can come behind and interlace your fingers. This is going to help you to get your chest up and get your back up off the floor so you can practice the hand interlacing. Maybe you want a couple blocks under your feet if you feel like that's a little bit more comforting. You could always straighten out your legs and take straight leg, especially if your hamstrings are cramping. Straighten out those legs. This is really just to work the shoulders and the chest in this posture. All right, and then get your arms out of the way so you can lower back down and let your knees hang in the fabric for just a moment. And a little sway side to side with your knees. Okay, and I'm going to take this down to the backs of my ankles and hook the feet, like Charlie Chaplin style. We'll move this into a twist. I'm going to take my right leg out and over to the left. And the left leg is staying in the fabric, so there's a little tractioning in the outer right hip. Your right leg can be straight or can bend. Left arm is out to the side, just opening your chest, keeping your heart open here. Maybe your gaze just stays up to the ceiling. It doesn't need to go anywhere else. Okay. And then pull your right knee back in and switch sides. Right foot goes back in the hammock. Take your left knee to your chest and then roll over your right leg into a twist. So your left leg rolls over your right leg, which is still inclined in the hammock. And you can bend your right knee or keep your right leg straight, or your left leg rather. Left knee can bend or left leg straight. And again, your left arm is opening out. Your left hip is opening up over your right hip. So you're twisting. And then you can come back out of that with your left knee coming back into your chest, and then take your left foot back into the fabric. And just let those feet hang again. Bend your knees and straighten your legs out. If you want to take a reclining bound angle here with your feet in the fabric, sometimes that feels good after twisting. I'm going to reach up and catch the fabric though and pull myself up to seated. Take your feet out when you do that though. That might be interesting. Now I've got our wrist wrap and I'm going to stretch forward into Paschimottanasana, a seated forward fold. And here, feel free to explore any movement if you want to go side to side. Okay, and then take the fabric up behind your head and wrap it around your head so it's not digging into your neck. There's a pressure point there, so it's wrapping around your head like a headband. And then just kind of sway side to side. And feel this traction in your spine. All right, then I'm going to come up a little higher. So I'm going to use my feet on the floor to kind of push up and get the fabric up under my upper back, heart area. Feet are on the floor, knees are bent like a squat, and I'm going to open over the fabric. Little heart opener here. I'm going side to side if that feels good. You can take as big of a back bend as you need here. I just really want a gentle back bend for the upper heart. And then I'm just going to kind of slide down to the floor, sliding out of the fabric. I'm coming into Shavasana, a restful pose. If you like to lie in the fabric, you can open up the hammock and lie back in at full body, floating Shavasana. And take your time just to feel the non-movement if you're on the floor. If you are in the hammock Shavasana, make sure you give yourself plenty of time to ground. All right, thanks, yogis.